Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a live post reaction of the first college football playoff poll released on ESPN tonight, obviously earlier today, and I will post them next to each other. We went through my top 25 poll with Diego, and now we're going to give first reactions and just a couple things for the new college football playoff poll. I'll start off by saying just new committee, new metrics that they're using. They have essentially done a quad system like college basketball. Um, and I think it reflects quite a bit, honestly, from the AP over to the college football playoff rankings. So, very interesting. A lot more emphasis on the computer this year to last.
Yeah,
Um, I like the rankings. I think I'm surprised genuinely how much I agree with them.
yeah.
Um, Obviously, I haven't posted the video yet, but in my rankings, I had Pitt at 25. I had Tennessee unranked. I had Washington right around there as well. Missouri, I had 19 in my rankings. Michigan and Iowa, I had around that range. So I what's your first immediate thought? Good, bad, anything you disagree with majorly here, Diego?
Um, Nothing really stands out. Really, I think that sure now I think it's correct what's happening. It is what is it, week like 9 or week 8? I don't think it's gonna consistently stay the same. Like I think Virginia is gonna not be there.
Yeah,
But I
and
feel like I can agree
it
with
is an
most teams
important
there.
important notion here that I'll kind of mark out if I can, without destroying stuff. I'll put a little red dot next to if I can do that. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do that. Let's do line width. So projected conference title winners right now are those four. And then Memphis is not ranked in this poll. Um,
Mm,
I disagree with that. I think Memphis deserves to be ranked.
I
But
do think
obvi-
so too.
but obviously it it's definitely I'm surprised at how much I agree with it. Obviously on that right side of the graphic, there's the comparison between the college football playoff on the left, AP on the right. Couple teams move up, couple teams move down. One of the notable ones moving is Oregon moving from 6 to 9.
Yeah.
I don't have a complaint with that, honestly. Um, I'm kind of
Th-
surprised that they were there in the first place. Their best win on the season is
Northwestern probably.
Northwestern. They have a loss and got dominated by Indiana, which is probably the best loss in the country. I'll give them that. But I I'm okay with them dropping just a bit, especially when you start looking at metrics. And something they were pointing out in the ESPN show was, hey, the metrics and strength of schedule point out that maybe Texas A&M and Indiana deserve to be the 1 and 2. Um, Obviously, not much we can say more than that because it's just speculation. But a couple other things, they respected head to heads
Yeah.
almost all the way through. Obviously, Notre Dame and Miami, they pointed this out on the broadcast. They don't think that those two teams are on the same level right now. And I
I
completely
can totally
agree.
agree with that.
I completely agree. Um, Going down to that bottom, I I would realistically say that because Utah hopped up so much, one of my questions before the show, before the ESPN broadcast started, was where is the ACC? Are they going to be a one bid league or a two bid league? Because I'm not sure that they're going to get more than two. And quite frankly, I'm surprised at how strong they believe those front three Big 12 schools are.
Yeah,
Utah hopped up 4 spots from
to
the
13. Yeah.
AP, and there's a very real chance that if they get to Notre Dame, because Notre Dame is where the cutoff is, by the way,
Mm.
um, if they can get up to Notre Dame, uh, you can have a 3 bid Big 12 team or 3 bid Big 12 into the playoffs. So very interesting. Um, first rankings, not really much more you can say. Um, I'll be interested to see how much
It changes.
it changes because this is this kind of goes back to early in the year when you have that first AP preseason poll. And we've seen how much that affects season long perception.
Yeah.
So I'll be interested to see how much this poll affects the rest of the season because while metrics can change, while numbers can move, I'm not sure I can see a massive swing like we did last year, where it was more subjective to the committee. But this year, more metrics are involved. Quads are a thing, sort of. Um, very interested to see how that develops throughout the season. Um, another question I had before was: are teams rewarded for winning, or are teams rewarded for losing? And I think there's a caveat to that, and I think it was very well handled. Was it matters how you lose,
Yeah,
and it
I do agree with that.
it it matters if you win, but it doesn't matter how you win. In my from what I saw,
Yeah, yeah. That's
it,
most notable with
it
probably Virginia right here. Yeah, that's probably the most.
they're going with a W is a W, but a loss that's close, like Notre Dame. They've lost on effectively two final play of the game plays,
Yeah,
and rightfully so. I believe they're about okay. I still think they're a little overranked, but I mean, hey, out of the gaggle of two lost teams, they've probably had the two best
yeah.
losses, as in the way that they lost
Mhm.
was the most bearable. Um, obviously losing to rivals is a whole different thing, but very interested to see how this works out later on in the season. Moving to the left
I
side
think the
now.
yeah, I think the poll's really going to change here next week because you have two teams playing each other, the number 8 and the number 7 team with Texas Tech and BYU.
Also important game. We'll go we'll go blue here. This next week, Oregon, shoot, wrong size marker. Oregon plays down the stretch. Oregon plays Iowa. They play USC as well. Um, that those could be two very interesting games.
Yeah,
Obviously, it comes to obviously that'll change. That's subject to change later on in the season. Um, BYU plays Texas Tech, and that's a really interesting one because I'm interested to see how much do they punish a top 10 loss when you yourself are a top 10 team. Because
yeah, because they didn't really punish Georgia when they did lose to Alabama. You can
yeah,
see
yeah,
because Georgia, yes, after that Alabama game, which repeatedly I would have to say it was probably a little lucky as an Alabama fan. You know, Georgia did drop a touchdown and they should have kicked the field goal on 4th and 1. I
fair.
would say that. But I feel like Georgia's one loss, you know, to the number 4 team in the country, I feel like they were both they were both the two best teams, in my opinion, in the SEC. I think Texas A&M is a really good team as well, and I feel like they will make the SEC championship. I don't think
Yeah.
there's any competition really other than Auburn for Texas A&M because as an Alabama fan,
So if you had, I know it's very early to do this. If you had to place who are locks for the college football playoff right now, who
all right, I'll do it right now. I
I
say all
Ohio
right.
State and Indiana are both locks.
Oh, most definitely. Unless something historic happens.
Texas
Unless
A&M, I think
I,
Bama's a lock.
I don't know about that one yet. As an Alabama fan, I think Alabama has a tough stretch down the road. With Oklahoma,
Yeah.
you have LSU with nothing to lose, really. They don't have anything to
I
gain.
honestly I know you'll say, I know you may be like spur of the moment. Oh, I don't know about that. Dude, is it at LSU this weekend?
I think it's at Brian
Okay,
Denny, actually.
I'll pull that back then. I was gonna say LSU is gonna beat Bama if it's in LSU.
No, I don't
Just
feel like that's happened. I feel like Baton Rouge really over Death Valley over the few years.
fair.
They really have they peaked during 2019. Death Valley
Agreed.
was like
Agreed.
I feel like
Bring back
LSU's
Coach
like
O.
yeah, they got rid of Brian Kelly. I mean, like there
Yeah.
might be more people there to celebrate that, and they're playing a top four team. But I feel like even if you play at Baton Rouge, I feel like it's not as important as playing somewhere else. I feel
Fair.
like Alabama's most important game coming up, other than Oklahoma, is Auburn, and I think it's at Jordan Hare now.
Yeah,
That's a tough game
and
because
that's a game. I mean, obviously the kick six happened and that happened there. Some
fourth
just
and 31. I remember
some
fourth and 31. Oh
fourth
my
and
gosh.
31. Some dark
Bryce
magic
Young's
stuff.
comeback.
Some dark magic stuff happens in that rivalry. Same as
Yes.
BYU Utah. Same as shoot
Like
Georgia
Georgia,
Florida.
Florida. Oh,
Ohio State, Michigan, like some dark
yeah.
magic stuff happens in that game, and obviously that's another one. That's another game upcoming that I kind of didn't touch on is Ohio State plays Michigan. If
Yeah, Michigan's
Michigan,
ranked actually.
if
I could
Michigan,
see Ohio State
if
dropping one.
Michigan plays Ohio State and beats them, like dominates them, I don't think if Michigan, because that would be week 12. If Michigan like barely squeaks away, I see Michigan jumping 7 to 14. But I think with the
Yeah.
way that this poll, the one thing I guess that what I'm getting to is the polling, the numbers don't like the group of five this year as much as they did last year.
Yeah, because there were so many good group of five schools
And
last year.
and this and I think with that being said, with how weak the ACC is this year because it is cannibalizing itself in a way.
Yeah.
That cut line is the 10, maybe the 11 if you get an ACC school to go undefeated. But if you
Yeah.
have enough, if Virginia loses, which we said earlier in the show or earlier today that they probably will, Louisville is Louisville and Virginia Tech are really the last vestiges of getting a team from the ACC inside that top 11, inside that top 10. And even at that, Georgia Tech still has to play Georgia.
Yeah.
And while it won't affect their ACC record, it'll affect them in the poll.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
I
Yes.
think it's going to affect them significantly because that's really their
The only real
only
competition they
the
played all
only
year, in
game
my
they
opinion.
play all year. That's the only game they play all year. Obviously, it'll be week 12, right before
Yeah.
conference title games, which I I think will be given a little bit of a grain of salt. But it'll be very interesting to see because that cut line being where it is right there, about right now, or I guess I should say right there, with that
Yeah.
cut line being where it is, man, you're putting out some good teams. Um, the one thing here, okay, and this will be my final point talking on them because I feel like I've kind of beaten a dead horse here. Pitt plays remaining Miami,
Yeah.
Georgia Tech, and Notre Dame.
If Pitt wins out, I think they
Pitt will make it if they win out. But I think
Yeah.
Pitt. I, you know what? I'll do blue. I think they'll beat Miami. I think they'll beat Georgia Tech. And give me a toss up coin flip on Notre Dame. It's in Pitt.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think Pitt. I think if Pitt wins out, they could be like a top four seed
Like
because I
and
feel like
that's
Pitt has
I
a
don't see that happening. I think and I'll move over to the left now because I do feel like we've kind of gone very long on this side.
yeah.
I feel like the front four seeds, obviously, a lot of stuff happens this week that'll be affected later on. Still, BYU plays Cincinnati, and there's a lot of other games later on the stretch. Bama, Auburn, still a
Yeah.
ton of games, a ton of what ifs. It's really hard to project out like that.
I feel like the only gimme team that I think has really like earned themselves in the playoff, there's two. And it's the number 2 seed Indiana and it's the number 3 seed Texas A&M.
Yeah,
Both of these teams will probably win out. I think you don't knock Indiana down that much, even if they lose to Ohio State in the
I
Big
agree. I
Big
agree.
Ten.
And I think here's the thing there's a very real chance. And I think it's kind of being shown here a little. Obviously, it's not projecting a ton, but I think the top four seeds very well could be winner of Big Ten, no specific order. Winner of Big Ten, loser of Big Ten, winner of SEC, loser of SEC.
I can most definitely see that
And I think
because
and that was my kind of thought and my guess prior to this
mhm,
poll releasing. But I see them respecting the Big 12 a lot,
yeah, I do agree with that.
a lot more than I expected them to. And
And they're respecting the ACC a lot as well, which
yeah,
there's how many ACC teams? There's Louisville, Virginia, Georgia Tech,
five.
Miami. There's a fair amount of ACC schools there.
Yeah.
I feel like they're respecting other conferences other than the SEC and the Big Ten, which
And
I
I
can really
love
appreciate.
I don't know what metrics they're using, obviously. They pointed
Mm,
out that there's a quad style system like the college basketball style system. There's a similar style metric being used here. And I like that it's not just giving the SEC this massive buffer.
yeah,
Obviously, the SEC is still the best football conference. They have 6 schools inside the top 12. Um, it'll be interesting to see. So I'll move on now. Um, I I agree for I agree with the front four. I'm fine with
yeah, I
those
do
two
agree with
teams
that.
being the front four. It's just a mirror of the front five is a mirror of the AP. I'm okay with that for now. I still don't think Georgia is necessarily in the best spot right now, but they have the metrics to back it up there. I'm okay with that. So I'll kind of go just to games that are interesting. Texas Tech, Oregon in Lubbock. That's that's an incredible game in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, it'd be very interesting to see. I would lean Texas Tech. Um,
It all depends on how their quarterback play is.
yeah,
That's what I think. Because Oregon, I can agree that Oregon is somewhat glazed a lot. I feel like Oregon is glazed as a program, even though they haven't even won anything. They have 0 national championships, right?
it's
But
fair.
I feel like this Oregon team is a good team. I feel like this Oregon team, on some levels, is their best team. I think it was better than their team last year.
I'm okay with that. I don't hate that, and I'll
Because I think that's just to do with quarterback play. I just didn't like Dylan Gabriel. I think Dylan
yeah
Gabriel is just he's like a Diego Pavia that can't run and that doesn't have any aura.
yeah that's fair, and I do think that out of those play-in games, out of those first round matchups, I think the two, and obviously you'll probably disagree with me on this, the best home field advantages are Texas Tech and BYU there.
I can see that. Yeah,
I think those would make the most impact because I think Georgia and Ole Miss get major breaks with Virginia and Memphis. Are you serious? I mean,
yeah, most definitely. I think
Memphis
most of
isn't
the fans
bad,
will show up.
Memphis has no Last year,
business
Boise
people.
State had that capacity. They got
Yeah.
blown out. I give them that. But they
But
had that capacity.
they had the juice. They had the juice. They had
No,
Ashton Genty.
no, no group of five school this year, in my opinion, has any chance to go on the road into one of these juggernaut program powerhouse stadiums that are two times as big as the regular group of five stadiums they play in. There's no way in the world this year that a group of five school will go on the road and upset. I'll say that,
I'd
and
love
then BYU is going to get beat by damn San Diego State, and
Yeah,
I'll hate my life.
I'd love to see an upset happen, but I feel like this year there's no really it factor in the group of five. You had Ashton Genty last year, who I maybe we can make a video of this, but I don't think Ashton Genty was robbed of the Heisman. I think Travis Hunter was
Disagree.
the Heisman.
Yeah, that's another topic though. You're good.
But I feel like Ashton Genty was the driving force. He was the reason Boise State was. He was the
Yeah,
reason they got a bye.
that's
And
fair.
I feel like if Boise State is such a different team last year without Ashton Genty, and it's an if factor. You know, this Memphis team, they're a great team and they play as a team. I love that. I love that they're good. I mean, like Memphis has been consistently a good
But
program, you know.
Memphis has the capacity to put out a stinker. Obviously, they lost to the University of Alabama Birmingham, so they have the capacity to
I
throw
mean,
out a stinker. And
yeah, I mean, like, don't this UA be like that, man? Like, they're my NCAA rebuild right now. So
right, yeah, no, but I think Georgia and Ole Miss both get off pretty easily. I mean, who
I feel
knows?
like that too.
Who knows?
But I feel like
Virginia could keep that Ole Miss game close potentially, but it, I can't I I can't pick against Lane Kiffin and that
yeah,
offense, especially after what they did to the LSU defense. I can't pick
yeah.
against them, especially against an ACC school. But
Well,
out
I
of
want to add
those,
something right
yeah,
here.
you
I
can
feel
go.
like all right, so I feel like I don't think Virginia is going to be there. I think that though,
I don't think they
if
will
it's
either.
Ole Miss or like Georgia Tech, because I feel like if Georgia Tech beats Georgia, they have such a sole right to be in there. I don't care if they lose the ACC title. I think if they beat Georgia, who's consistently a top five team right here, they're a top
Yeah,
five team
yeah.
everywhere. I think if Georgia Tech beats Georgia, I feel like they have an automatic bid in. And I feel like that's not really crazy to say
I don't think
because
that's. I don't. Okay, so here's the question: Do they take Notre Dame's spot as? Does Notre Dame get hurt by that because it's still the top five conference title winners, regardless of rank? So
yeah,
if the ACC somehow, I know this won't happen, if the ACC were somehow have all their teams unranked and their conference title winner, let's say, I mean, I know I'm rambling here, trying to think of this on the spot, but if you have Georgia Tech beat Georgia, but then lose in the conference title game, do you still give them the bid over a Notre Dame? Because that's who you would probably have to knock out. Because
yeah.
given how low the ACC is, not bad, but how low they are in comparison to the other conferences, that
Well, who's to say?
ACC bid is very likely to be the 11, to be, shoot, maybe even be the 12 if Memphis goes undefeated. I mean, I find it very hard to give the ACC more than one bid. And I can see where you're coming from with the Georgia game being a good win,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I can give Georgia Tech that much leeway if they do beat them. I think the only team from the ACC that has a chance to make that league a two bid league is Pitt. And
I don't know. I feel
I don't
like
think
if
that's very
Louisville,
crazy.
I feel like if it's Louisville, Georgia Tech in the conference championship, which it could very well be, I feel like those teams are both good enough to where they get a bid. I think if Georgia Tech wins out, they beat Georgia and they win the ACC, I have them over Oregon, and then I have Louisville if they win out and just lose the what's it called, the ACC title. I have them over Notre Dame. I feel like Notre Dame really shot themselves in the foot with losing those two
Yeah.
games. and them not being in a conference really hurts them because they can't add a conference title win.
Yeah,
Granted,
and
I think that
so I
Notre
think
Dame Notre
out
Dame's a
of
great program, right? They're
yeah,
they're a winning program, and I remember during COVID when they joined the ACC just so they can play, and they won the ACC that year. I do remember that.
yeah,
I feel like Notre Dame. I feel like I mean, like I don't understand why they're still independent anymore. Like,
it's
just
silly.
join a conference. They're just
Join the
trying to
Big
be
Ten.
different.
Join the Big Ten already.
That's
Just
what I
join the
said.
Big Ten
No,
already.
Notre Dame. I think just like Notre Dame. My dad said it best. Notre Dame. They will have a cakewalk schedule and then schedule one big school and then lose to them and then
Lose to the
say,
big
"Oh, we
school
deserve to
and then
be in
get
it."
in. And I think that is, I obviously this goes back to my earlier ranking. I I can't give them. I mean, I understand they're good.
They're a
They're
great
a
team. I
great
think
team,
Ben. I think
and
Cohen
but
Carr's been playing good.
the recency bias of their wins or their
Yeah,
losses, like their losses aren't recent. Their losses were the first
week
two
one, week
games
two.
that they played. So they're getting some benefit of it out there, some major ones. However, they still have losses. And I do
Yeah,
like that, and this goes back earlier, beating a dead horse here, preaching to the choir, whatever you want to say. The manner that they lost in was good. Even
they have two quality
and
losses.
that translates again a little less to Texas,
Mm.
but Texas only lost by a touchdown to Ohio State on the road. That's a I mean,
That's a quality loss, but
it
they
wasn't a
also have a
pretty
bad
game,
loss.
but they do have that bad loss. But they had the bad loss. They still honored the head to head.
Yeah.
Utah's two losses were both uglier than Texas's loss to Florida. So I could see I love the way I honestly love the rankings.
I do too. I really agree
Um
with every single one of them.
I I I like them dropping Oregon. I like them raising. I like how they're I
They
like
raised BYU. I really like that. I
the
don't
Big
really
12. I like the
necessarily.
Big 12.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
The Big 12 is going to be a three bid league. Calling it now, punch it in, call it in, do whatever you want.
Hey, don't say
That
that. Remember the last
yeah,
time
we're
the
so screwed.
Tulane.
We're so screwed. No,
That's why I'm not saying anything with Alabama because I would say like they go undefeated when the SEC and then like oh we get our like our butt tongued by LSU this week. I would hate to see that happen.
so final
Oh my
game,
gosh.
and this game, just a little context. 2021, I went out with my family and my dad and my sister to Las Vegas. BYU's independency finale. I have a shirt from that game still. BYU played Notre Dame in Las Vegas. Um, rematch from that in a college football playoff game in Provo, Utah. That's the best. That would be
That's a great game.
that is an incredible game. I think people would be surprised with how close that game would be, to be honest.
Yeah, because I think Notre Dame, in all reality, they haven't had some of the prettiest wins, and they have all right losses. But I feel like when Notre Dame's on, you could say this with any team, but when Notre Dame's on their day, they're on their day. Like
Yeah.
when they're on a roll, I feel like if you give Jeremiah Smith, if it's all if Notre Dame's offensive line, if the trenches really hold up against BYU's trenches, well, I think BYU has some of the best offensive line, defensive line. They
And
have,
here's kind of the point is the teams with good trench like cores that they've played.
yeah,
The two teams with good with better offensive line and defensive lines than Notre Dame. They lost to. And
yeah,
they lost not handily because the score lines were fine and it's a last second play in both games that
yes.
beat them. But even at that, I still believe that they did lose and got dominated in the trenches in both those games, if I remember correct. And I think BYU, I would outright go and say, and I know you could say bias, you're a BYU fan. I would outright go say they have a significantly better offensive line and defensive line than at least Miami. They
Yeah, I can agree
probably
with
have
that.
a better offensive line than Texas A&M, but Texas A&M is kind of bailed out by Marcel Reed and that incredible backfield that they have.
Yes, that is
So,
true.
so Notre Dame, BYU, I would love to go to that game. Um, Obviously, we'll just kind of. I think that Texas A&M gets the easiest path here.
I feel like they do have the easiest road. They would have to play the number they would have to play who was it? They'd have to play
So let's
Ohio
just do.
State maybe
Let me
because it's
just do.
1-3-2-4. No,
So
no, no.
so
One,
these
1-4-2-3. So they would have to
so
play
this team would
they'd
play
have to play
here.
Indiana then.
Yeah, and then this team
Well, I don't
would
know
play
if do you think
here.
BYU beats Indiana?
I ooh, depends on where that game would be.
I feel
Um,
like yeah, I feel like if it's like at a site closer to BYU, like if it's at the Rose Bowl, would it be a Rose Bowl game? Probably, yeah. Because the top four games, it's the Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl, Rose Bowl, and Cotton Bowl. No,
yeah, it's the traditional locations.
yeah, I feel like the easiest path would be I think Indiana, if they play their cards right, could outright just go straight to the national championship. I feel like they're a better team than Ole Miss. They're a better team than Virginia. They're a better team. I would like to see them play Texas A&M. I feel like Indiana Texas A&M would be a great game. I feel like Indiana BYU would be much closer than people think
Yeah, and
because I
and
feel like
here's the
BYU
thing is
is
I honestly I want to see BYU and Indiana go undefeated. Obviously, if they're undefeated, they probably don't play each other at this early. But
they were probably playing like a semifinal then.
if they played each other,
That's a dogfight.
they would both be 24-2 in the last 2.5 years of play.
Mm.
They uh, those coaches, Kalani Sitake, Kirsianetti, are some of the best in the country, in my opinion. I do some great stuff. But going back, I think Texas A&M gets the easiest path here because
Well, to the
if you
semifinals, yeah, I do think. I feel like Ole Miss,
if you do get Virginia,
that's a slaughter.
that's a
That's a
slaughter.
slaughter.
If you do get Ole Miss, okay, Ole Miss is great. Ole Miss's offense is really good, but
But
their
their defense is
defense
like
has
not as
holes. And
yeah.
I think Texas A&M, when you average out, has just it's just better there.
Most definitely.
Alabama, if Alabama gets Georgia, and I know you may disagree with me on this, I don't think Alabama gets away with Georgia twice in a season.
Well, I
It's rarely happened in the
it's
past.
rarely happened because I feel like it all depends on the way Alabama plays in the second half. Alabama, I do agree, has played amazing in some first halves. Accordingly, like last year, when we played Georgia, of course, we played a amazing first half. We played some amazing first halves. I think we just need to finish, and I feel like if Alabama comes off, if we beat I feel like if we go undefeated the rest of the way and we make the SEC championship, I feel like Alabama will be one of the hottest teams in the nation. And this is very biased for me, of course, but I feel like there's only a few. There might be a pinch of teams better than Alabama on their day because
And
I feel like
I
Alabama
agree with
has.
you. But I just don't think if you get Georgia again in a season, because it's happened. I mean, this game has happened twice in every year. Maybe not like this isn't exact science. Don't
It
quote
was
me.
like the SEC
It's like
championship that
SEC
Bryce Young
championship.
won,
They
and
play
then
every year. They play in the playoffs. Like it's happened so many times, and Alabama rarely gets, or the winner of the first game rarely gets the second one. And so, just kind of that would be an interesting matchup to see. Obviously, the next
I
game,
feel like, all
Ohio
right, I'm sorry
State,
to interrupt you here,
you're
but
good.
I feel like it all depends on how Alabama plays after the bye. That makes sense.
That's fair.
Because
That's fair. I
I
mean,
feel like
obviously,
that's all
everything is
determining
there.
on all these teams. Because, I mean, like, depending on how many of these guys play without a bye, you saw Alabama
Yeah.
go win four straight against ranked teams without a bye. And
And
then we have a bye this week.
everything's got a caveat in this, and it is fair. I would be interested to see hey, what would a bye do to Texas A&M against Ole Miss? Because I
That's a very good point.
if any game, and you may disagree with me on this, if Texas Tech beats Oregon, I think there's a legitimate chance that they could beat Ohio State off of a bye because
Oh,
I
oh
just
my
don't. I
God.
don't know.
Oh my God.
Silly, I know, but yeah,
Bro, Ohio
interesting to see.
State, I think far
Yeah,
and away, I don't know. That defense is just so good, and they're
ah,
not going to have their starting quarterback. They have Ohio
Texas
State
Tech.
has the best secondary player in the country, in my opinion, of course, and Caleb Downs. I know he went to Alabama. I was
Texas
pissed
Tech.
off.
Texas Tech has the best linebacking core in the country aside from
Yeah, I did see.
BYU.
I did see. Like you did send me earlier, like one of the Heisman rankings and
That's
like two.
okay. I know. Tangent here. The linebacking cores on the field, all the starting linebackers at the Texas Tech BYU game this week, every single one of them could be a first round draft pick.
I feel like they're day one to day two, but that still doesn't mean that's still a great draft pick,
Yeah,
man.
fair. But okay. And just wrapping up here, because I guess we have kind of gone for a while, like 20 minutes longer than I intended this to be. I think that just moving on, it's going to be interesting. I want to see how this ranking changes to next week.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Um,
I feel like a big decider in that is, of course, the number 8 versus the number 7 team. And I think that if BYU wins against Texas Tech, it's their conference to
they're gonna
lose.
be in the number four. They're gonna be number four in the country.
I feel like they can be propelled. It's all dependent because Texas A&M plays Missouri. That's a tough game. Alabama plays LSU.
And this is an important point. And I texted you right as they were starting the show. They they were talking, and this doesn't matter a ton, but it is perception, and it's something that BYU fans especially pick up on. BYU is one of four undefeated schools remaining, and
Yeah,
they didn't get lumped in narrative wise with, hey, these schools, A&M, Indiana, Ohio State, have separated themselves from the pack. But they didn't put the other undefeated in there. So it's interesting to see. I like to see how the narrative on certain schools changes and shifts throughout the year if
I
those
feel like
schools
they
get
could.
the respect. But
Yeah,
I do like that it seemingly the narrative is taken out of these rankings for the most part. From what I could see, obviously it's not the prettiest. We only have about a minute left, so I'll wrap up here. Like I said, just I want to see how it shifts. I want to see what happens. Obviously, not all these teams that are currently in the playoff are going to be in the playoff.
oh, most definitely.
Very, very interested to see how it develops. Thank you for joining me,
Yeah,
Diego.
thank you.
We will continue tomorrow.
All right, gotcha.
If I can stop the recording.